General Vextar stood in the command center of his massive warship. The ship was so big it could hold a small city inside it. Its name was Eternal Dominion, and it was the most feared ship in the galaxy. Vextar was not like humans at all. He was tall, with 4 strong arms and a body covered in hard, dark armor that grew from his skin. His people were called Zentarons, and they were known as the best fighters in space. The general's 4 red eyes looked at the hologram floating in front of him. The image showed a small blue and green planet called Terra 3. Most people in the galaxy called it Earth. It was a nothing planet in a nothing part of space. The people there had only just learned how to travel between stars. They were new, weak, and should have been easy to control. But something was very wrong. Commander Threx walked up to the general. Threx was nervous, which was strange because he never got nervous. He was a soldier from the Corvani species. His people had purple skin and 3 eyes. They were good at thinking fast and following orders. But right now, Threx looked worried. "General," Threx said in a quiet voice, "we have a big problem." Vextar turned all 4 of his eyes to look at Threx. When the general looked at someone like that, most beings in the galaxy would shake with fear. But Threx was used to it. He had worked with Vextar for many years. "What problem?" Vextar asked. His voice was deep and scary, like rocks falling down a mountain. Threx touched a button. On his arm, a new hologram appeared in the air. It showed numbers and data about the 47th Pacification Corps. This was not just any group of soldiers. These were the best fighters the galaxy had ever seen. Each soldier was changed with special science to make them stronger, faster, and smarter. They came from 12 different species, and each one was worth 100 normal soldiers. The 47th Corps went to Terra 3 days ago, Threx said. Their job was simple. Show the humans our power. Make them understand they should join the hegemony without a fight. It should have taken a few hours. The Galactic hegemony was the government that controlled most of the galaxy. When they found new planets with smart life, they always did the same thing. They sent soldiers to show their power. Most species would see the advanced weapons in ships and agree to join right away. It was easier than fighting a war they could not win. And Vextar growled, "They are gone, General, all of them." Vextar's eyes grew wide. "Gone? What do you mean gone?" Threx's hands shook a little as he changed the hologram. Now it showed the timeline of what happened. 3 days ago, the 47th Corps landed on Terra 3. They sent a message saying they had arrived. They were going to meet with the human leaders in a place called Washington, D.C. The hologram showed the landing site. It was a flat area near the human capital city. The ships had landed perfectly, just like always. The soldiers had gotten out wearing their quantum phase armor that could stop any weapon the humans had. They carried plasma rifles that could melt through steel like it was butter. 2 hours later, they sent another message. They said the humans wanted to talk. The humans were being polite and asking questions about the galaxy. Normal stuff. Vextar nodded. This was how it usually went. New species were curious about the bigger galaxy. They asked questions about other planets and peoples. It was natural. 6 hours after landing, they sent their last message. They said the humans had invited them to something called a cultural exchange event. They were going to learn about human society. They would call back in the morning. And then? Nothing, General. No more messages. No calls for help. No emergency signals. Our sensors in space can see their ships, but the ships are empty. We can track their armor and weapons with our satellites, but the signals are weak and scattered all over the human planet. Vextar felt something he had not felt in many years: confusion. In his long career as a general, he had seen many strange things. He had fought wars against species that could change shape. He had battled robots that could think. He had even fought against energy beings that had no bodies at all. But he had never seen soldiers just disappear. Did the humans attack them? He asked. Threx shook his head. No, sir. Our space sensors would have seen any fighting. Plasma weapons make a lot of energy when they fire. Big explosions leave marks that we can see from space. But there is nothing. No signs of battle anywhere on the planet. Did their equipment break? No, sir. We can still track their gear. The signals are just spread out across the planet. Some are in human cities. Some are in the countryside. Some are near human military bases. But they are not together like a fighting unit should be. Vextar walked to the big window that looked out into space. He could see Terra 3 in the distance, looking peaceful and quiet. It was hard to believe that this small, weak planet had somehow made his best soldiers vanish. Maybe the humans have some technology we do not know about, he said. Some kind of mind control or teleportation. We thought of that, General. We scanned the planet before the cores landed. The humans have basic computers and simple rocket ships. They just learned how to split atoms for energy. They are at least 500 years behind us in science. They should not have anything that could threaten our soldiers. Vextar was quiet for a long time. He thought about all the possibilities. Maybe there was another species on Terra 3 that was hiding. Maybe the humans had found some old alien technology. Maybe his soldiers had found something so dangerous they could not call for help. But deep in his mind, he felt something else. Something that made him angry. What if the humans had somehow beaten his soldiers? What if these primitive beings had outsmarted the galaxy's best warriors? The thought made his 4 hands form into fists. How long since their last message? He asked. 72 hours and 36 minutes, General. That is too long. Something is very wrong. Vextar turned back to Threx. Send a message to the Hegemony Council. Tell them we have a situation. Then prepare the fleet. How many ships, General? All of them. Threx's 3 eyes went wide. Sir, all of them? That is 50 dreadnoughts and 300 support ships. That is enough firepower to destroy the planet. Good, Vextar said. His voice was full of anger. Now, these humans will return my soldiers, or I will turn their world into space dust. No primitive species embarrasses the galactic hegemony. No one makes our warriors disappear without consequences. As Threx hurried away to follow orders, Vextar looked back at Terra 3. The small planet looked so innocent from this distance. But somewhere down there, his soldiers were missing. His pride was hurt. His reputation was at risk. He would get answers. And if the humans had hurt his people, he would make them pay in ways they could not imagine. The general did not know that. At that very moment, on the surface of Terra 3, his missing soldiers were sitting around fires, eating something called hot dogs and laughing at human jokes. They were not prisoners. They were not hurt. They were not even trying to call for help. For the first time in their military careers, they were happy. 3 days later, the biggest war fleet in galactic history arrived at Terra 3. 50 massive ships that could destroy planets floated in the darkness around Earth. Each ship was filled with weapons that could melt mountains. The smallest support ships were bigger than human cities. The flagship, Eternal Dominion, was so large that Earth's moon looked small next to it. General Vextar stood on his command bridge and looked at the blue planet below. His 4 arms were crossed, and his red eyes burned with anger. Behind him, hundreds of officers from different alien species worked at control panels. The bridge was quiet except for the soft beeping of computers. Everyone knew the general was furious. Open a communication channel to the planet, Vextar ordered. His voice echoed through the bridge like thunder. A young officer with green skin and tentacles for arms pressed buttons on his console. Channel open, General. We are broadcasting on all human frequencies. Vextar stepped forward to the communication screen. His image would now appear on every television, computer, and phone on Earth. He wanted every human to see what they were. "Facing, people of Terra 3, he began, his voice cold and threatening. "I am General Vextar of the Galactic Hegemony. 3 days ago, you took our soldiers. You will return them now, or your world will burn." The communication screen stayed blank for several minutes. Vextar's anger grew. How dare these primitives make him wait? Did they not understand the power floating above their heads? Did they not see the weapons pointed at their cities? Finally, the screen flickered to life. A human face appeared. It was a man with dark hair turning gray at the sides. He wore a simple blue suit and sat behind a wooden desk. He looked calm, which surprised Vextar. Most species would be terrified when facing a hegemony fleet. "General Vextar," the human said with a slight smile. "I am Secretary of Defense Martinez. Thank you for contacting us." Vextar's 4 eyes narrowed. This human was thanking him. "You will return my soldiers immediately," the general growled. "The 47th Pacification Corps belongs to the hegemony. You have no right to hold them." Martinez's smile grew a little wider. For some reason, this made Vextar feel uncomfortable. He had seen fear, anger, and desperation in the faces of his enemies, but this calm happiness was something new and strange. "General," Martinez said, "your soldiers are perfectly safe. In fact, they are having quite a wonderful time. Would you like to see them?" Before Vextar could answer, the screen changed. The general watched in shock as a new image appeared. His soldiers, the most elite warriors in the galaxy, were sitting around a fire. They were eating strange human food with their hands. They were laughing. Actually laughing. Vextar recognized Elite Commander Corvash, his second in command. Corvash was a draconian warrior who had never smiled in 30 years of service. But there he was, wearing a bright red human shirt with words on it that said, "I went to Earth, and all I got was this lousy t-shirt." He was teaching human children how to throw a ball. The image moved to show more soldiers. A Zentaran heavy weapons specialist was helping humans plant seeds in a garden. A Corvani sniper was playing some kind of card game with elderly humans and losing badly. Every soldier looked relaxed and happy. "What have you done to them?" Vextar demanded. "What kind of mind control is this?" Martinez appeared back on the screen. "No mind control, General. We simply invited them to a barbecue." "A what?" "A barbecue. It is when we cook food outside and share it with friends. We told them about our planet, our culture, our way of life. They seemed interested, so we showed them around." Vextar could not believe what he was hearing. These are elite soldiers. They are trained killers. They do not play games or plant gardens. "With respect, General," Martinez said, still smiling. "Everyone enjoys good food and friendship. Your soldiers are very intelligent and curious. They asked many questions about Earth. We were happy to answer them." The communication screen split to show more images. Vextar saw his soldiers in human cities, talking to human scientists about technology. He saw them at human schools, speaking to children about other planets. He saw them at human hospitals, using their medical knowledge to help sick people. Most shocking of all, he saw them working alongside human military forces. But they were not fighting, they were building things. Bridges, schools, hospitals. They were using their advanced knowledge to help humans, not to conquer them. "This is impossible," Vextar whispered. "Soldiers of the hegemony do not help primitives. They conquer them." Martinez heard the whisper. "General, may I ask you something? When was the last time someone thanked your soldiers for their service? Not ordered them to fight, not demanded their obedience, but actually thanked them for protecting people?" Vextar opened his mouth to answer, then closed it. In the hegemony, soldiers followed orders. They conquered planets. They enforced peace through fear, but thanked? The concept was foreign to him. When was the last time, Martinez continued, your soldiers had a choice about how to use their skills? When they could help instead of hurt. When they could build instead of destroy. The images on the screen changed again. Now Vextar saw his soldiers teaching human engineers about advanced technology. But they were not giving away military secrets. They were sharing knowledge about medicine, agriculture, and clean energy. Things that would make human life better. Your soldiers are remarkable people, Martinez said. They know so much about science, about other worlds, about life in the galaxy. We learn something new from them every day. They are warriors. Vextar shouted. Not teachers. Why can they not be both? Martinez asked simply. This question hit Vextar like a physical blow. In the hegemony, everyone had one job. Soldiers fought. Scientists researched. Workers built. No one was allowed to be more than their assigned role. But here were his elite fighters also being teachers, builders, and friends. You will return them now, Vextar said. But his voice was not as strong as before. The hegemony does not negotiate with primitives. Martinez nodded. Of course, General. Your soldiers are free to leave any time they want. We are not holding them prisoner. In fact, let me ask them right now. The screen showed Martinez speaking to Commander Corvash. Commander, your general is here. He wants you and your soldiers to return to your ships. Are you ready to go? Corvash looked directly at the camera. He could see Vextar watching. General, he said respectfully, the humans have shown us something incredible. They have problems here that we can help solve. People who are sick that we can heal. Children who want to learn about the stars. Is it possible for us to stay a little longer? Vextar felt the bridge around him grow very quiet. His own officers were watching and listening. His second in command, his most loyal soldier, was asking to stay with humans instead of returning to duty. This is not a request, Commander, Vextar said through gritted teeth. This is an order. Return to your ships immediately. Corvash looked sad. Yes, General, we will come back. But then Martinez spoke again. Commander, the invitation remains open. If you ever want to visit Earth again, you are welcome here. The screen went dark. Vextar stood in silence, his four hands shaking with anger and confusion. Around him, his officers whispered to each other. They had never seen anything like this. Soldiers choosing to stay with the enemy? A primitive species. Showing kindness to hegemony forces? General, Commander Threk said quietly, your orders? Vextar looked at the planet below. What kind of people were these humans? How had they turned his elite soldiers into willing helpers in just 3 days? And most disturbing of all, why did his own officers look curious about this strange human? Concept of friendship? Prepare my shuttle, he said finally. I am going down to the planet. Sir, Threk said in alarm, that could be dangerous. We do not know what weapons they have. Vextar looked at the images still displayed on the side. Screens, his soldiers eating, laughing, playing with human children. Somehow, he said quietly, I do not think weapons are what I should be worried about. As his shuttle prepared for departure, General Vextar wondered what other surprises these humans had waiting for him. He was about to find out that their most dangerous weapon was not technology or military might. It was something far more powerful and terrifying to a galactic conqueror. It was genuine kindness. General Vextar's shuttle landed in a large open field outside Washington, D.C. He wore his best battle armor and carried weapons that could destroy a building. Behind him marched 20 of his personal guards, each one a deadly warrior from different species across the galaxy. They expected to find a war zone or a prison camp. Instead, they found something much more confusing. The landing field was full of humans, but they were not soldiers. They were families with children, old people with gray hair, and young people holding signs that said, Welcome to Earth, and thank you for visiting. Many humans were taking pictures with small devices. Some were waving their hands in the air in what looked like a greeting. "This makes no sense," muttered Captain Zix, one of Vextar's guards. He was from a species that could see heat with their eyes. "General, these humans have no weapons. Their body heat shows they are excited, not afraid." Vextar said nothing. He was looking for his missing soldiers, expecting to see them in chains or behind bars. Instead, he saw Commander Corvash walking toward him with a human woman and 3 small human children. Corvash was not wearing his armor. He wore simple human clothes and was carrying what looked like a plate of food. "General," Corvash called out happily, "you came down to visit. This is wonderful. I want you to meet my new friends." Vextar's 4 eyes grew wide. His most serious commander was acting like he was at a party, not a military operation. "Commander, report immediately. Where are your soldiers? What is your status?" Corvash smiled, which shocked Vextar even more. "The soldiers are all around the area, General. Some are in the city helping with construction projects. Others are at the university, talking to human scientists. A few are at the hospital showing human doctors some medical techniques from the Corvani species." "Construction? Medical work?" Vextar's voice rose. "These are elite soldiers, not construction workers." The human woman next to Corvash stepped forward. She was small and had brown hair tied back. She did not look afraid of the general at all. "General Vextar, I am Dr. Sarah Chun. I have been working with your soldiers at our research center. They know so much about different forms of life across the galaxy. We have learned more in 3 days than we had in years of study." One of the small humans, a boy who could not have been more than 10 years old, tugged on Corvash's shirt. "Commander, Corvi, is this your boss? He looks really cool with all those arms." Corvash laughed and picked up the child. "Yes, this is General Vextar. He's the leader of our military force." "General, this is Tommy. He wants to be a space pilot when he grows up." The child looked at Vextar with bright, curious eyes. "Mr. General, do you really fly between the stars? Commander Corvi told us about planets with purple grass and animals that can fly without wings." Vextar stared at the child. In his long military career, no being had ever called him Mr. General or asked him about planets with curiosity instead of fear. He did not know how to respond. Secretary Martinez appeared, walking across the field with several other humans. He still had that calm smile that made Vextar uncomfortable. "General, welcome to Earth. I hope your trip down was pleasant. Where are my soldiers being held?" Vextar demanded. Martinez looked confused. "Held, General, they are not being held anywhere. They are free to go anywhere they want on Earth. In fact, many of them have asked to see different parts of our world. Some went to see our oceans, others wanted to visit our mountains. A few went to something we call a baseball game." "A what game?" "Baseball. It is a sport we play for fun. Your soldiers found it very interesting. They said most species in the galaxy do not have time for games." Captain Zix stepped forward. "General, this could be some kind of trap. Maybe the humans are using advanced mind control." A new voice spoke up. It was Elite Sergeant Thrak, a massive warrior from the Bandar species. He was supposed to be one of the most violent soldiers in the galaxy. But he was wearing a human shirt that said, "World's Best Dad," and carrying a small human baby. "Captain Zix," Thrak said gently, "there's no mind control. The humans asked us if we wanted to help them with some projects. They said please and thank you. They shared their food with us. They introduced us to their families." Thrak held up the baby, who was sleeping peacefully. "This is little Emma. Her parents are both human doctors. They have been teaching me about human child care. Did you know that human babies are born completely helpless and need care for many years?" Yet humans spend enormous time and energy taking care of them, with no expectation of reward. Vextar felt his world spinning. Soldiers do not take care of babies. Soldiers fight wars. Dr. Chun spoke up again. General, may I ask you something? What do your soldiers fight for? They fight for the hegemony, for order, for peace through strength. But what do they personally fight for? What do they want to protect? Vextar opened his mouth to answer, then stopped. In the hegemony, soldiers followed orders. They did not have personal wants or things to protect. They served the state. Martinez stepped closer. General, your soldiers have been telling us about their lives. Many of them have never seen their home planets in years. Some have never had friends outside their military units. Most have never been asked what they want to do with their skills besides fighting. Fighting is what they do, Vextar said. But his voice was weaker now. Commander Corvash set down the human child and walked to Vextar. General, do you remember why I became a soldier? Vextar thought back. Your planet was being attacked by space pirates. You wanted to protect your people. Yes, I wanted to protect people. But when did I last actually protect anyone? We conquer planets. We force them to join the hegemony. We make them afraid. When did I last save someone instead of threatening them? Dr. Chun pulled out a small device and showed Vextar some pictures. General, your soldiers have been helping us solve problems. They used their knowledge of engineering to help us build better hospitals. They used their medical training to help us cure diseases. They used their understanding of different species to help us prepare for meeting other galactic civilizations. The pictures showed Vextar's soldiers working alongside humans. They were building, healing, teaching, and learning. They looked happy in a way he had never seen before. Yesterday, Martinez said, Sergeant Thrak saved a human child who fell into a river. The child's parents cried with joy and thanked him over and over. Thrak told me it was the first time in 20 years of military service that someone had thanked him for helping instead of for following orders. A terrible thought entered Vextar's mind. Are you saying my soldiers do not want to return to the fleet? Corvash looked sad. General, we will return if you order us to. We are still loyal soldiers. But the humans have shown us something we never knew existed. What? They have shown us what it feels like to be appreciated for who we are, not just what we can destroy. They ask our opinions. They value our knowledge. They treat us like people, not just weapons. Vextar looked around the field. Humans and his soldiers were mixing together, talking, laughing, sharing food. Children were playing games with warriors who could crush tanks with their bare hands. Old humans were listening to stories about distant stars from beams they had met only days ago. This is not how conquest works, Vextar said quietly. Martinez heard him. You are right, General. This is not conquest. This is friendship. And friendship is much stronger than conquest, because people choose it freely. As the sun began to set on Earth, General Vextar realized he was facing something more dangerous than any weapon in the galaxy. He was facing the possibility that everything he believed about power, control, and military strength might be wrong. The humans had not defeated his soldiers. They had given his soldiers something better than victory. They had given them purpose, appreciation, and choice, and that was far more terrifying than any battle he had ever fought. General Vextar spent 3 days on Earth, and each day made him more confused and worried. The humans had not put him in a prison or tried to hurt him. Instead, they had given him a place to stay and invited him to see their world. They called it a guest house and said he was welcome to explore anywhere he wanted. On his first morning, Secretary Martinez came to visit him. He brought something called coffee and pastries for breakfast. Vextar had eaten food from hundreds of planets. But somehow the simple human bread tasted better than the fancy meals made by the best chefs in the galaxy. General, Martinez said as they sat at a small table, Would you like to understand what your soldiers have been learning here? Vextar nodded. He needed to understand what was happening to his troops. Martinez pulled out a thin computer tablet. Your soldiers have been asking us many questions about how Earth works. Not our weapons or defenses, but how our society functions. They want to know why humans help each other. The tablet showed pictures and documents. Vextar saw charts about human governments, human laws, and human customs. But these were not military reports. They were explanations of things like hospitals, schools, and something called Social Security. Your soldier, Commander Korvash, spent 2 hours yesterday talking to our doctors, Martinez continued. He wanted to know why human doctors promise to help all sick people, even if those people cannot pay for treatment. He said in the hegemony, medical care is only for those who can afford it or those useful to the state. Vextar looked at the tablet. Medical care is expensive. Resources are limited. The hegemony must be practical. Of course, resources are limited, Martinez agreed. But we found something interesting. When we help everyone get healthy, our whole society becomes stronger and more productive. Healthy people work better, think better, and contribute more. This made Vextar think. In the hegemony, weak or sick beings were often left behind. Only the strong and useful were given help. But what if helping the weak actually made everyone stronger? Martinez showed him more information. Your soldiers also asked about our education system. They learned that any human child, rich or poor, can go to school and learn about science, art, history, and anything else they want to study. That seems wasteful, Vextar said. Why teach children things they will never use? Because we never know what problems we will need to solve in the future, Martinez explained. A child who studies art might grow up to design better buildings. A child who studies history might find solutions to problems we face today. When everyone can learn, we get ideas from everywhere. Vextar thought about his own education. He had been trained only for war. He knew nothing about art, very little about science, and only enough history to understand military campaigns. What could he have become if he had been allowed to learn other things? On his second day, Martinez took him to visit different parts of Washington, D.C. They went to something called the Smithsonian Museum. Vextar saw displays about human history, human achievements, and human failures. The humans did not hide their mistakes. They showed their wars, their crimes, and their disasters right alongside their victories. Why do you show your failures? Vextar asked. Because we learn from them, Martinez replied. If we pretend we never made mistakes, we will make the same mistakes again. In the hegemony, failure was hidden or punished. Leaders never admitted to being wrong. But here, humans studied their failures to become better. That afternoon, they visited a human school. Vextar watched small humans learning about mathematics, science, and languages. But he also saw them learning about something called critical thinking. The teacher was asking the children to question ideas and think for themselves. You teach children to question authority? Vextar asked in shock. The teacher, a kind woman named Mrs. Patterson, smiled at him. We teach them to think carefully about what they hear and see. We want them to ask good questions and find good answers. In the hegemony, questioning authority was forbidden. Citizens were expected to obey without thinking. But these humans were training their children to think independently. On his third day, Martinez showed Vextar something that changed everything. They went to a place called the Pentagon, where human military leaders worked. Vextar expected to see war plans and weapon designs. Instead, he saw something completely different. The human military was working on disaster relief. When earthquakes, floods, or storms hurt people, human soldiers went to help. They rescued people from collapsed buildings, brought food to hungry families, and rebuilt destroyed homes. Your soldiers fight disasters instead of other people? Vextar asked. General. Williams, the human military commander, nodded. We fight when we have to, but we prefer to fight problems, not people. Our soldiers are trained to protect and help, not just to conquer. Vextar met human soldiers who had traveled to other countries, not to invade them, but to build schools and hospitals. He met engineers who designed bridges and water systems instead of weapons. He met medics who had saved thousands of lives in disaster zones. But the biggest shock came when Martinez showed him Earth's communication networks. Every day, billions of humans talked to each other through something called the Internet. They shared ideas, art, music, and knowledge freely. You let all your people communicate with each other. Vextar asked, without government control? Of course, Martinez said. How else would we learn from each other? In the hegemony, communication was controlled by the government. Citizens could only access approved information. But humans let their people share any ideas they wanted. That evening, Martinez sat with Vextar and asked him a direct question. General, what do you think your soldiers have learned here? Vextar was quiet for a long time. Then he said, they have learned that there's another way to live. A way where people help each other instead of controlling each other. And what do you think they want now? They want to go home and share what they have learned. Martinez nodded. Yes, but General, there's something else you should know. Martinez showed him reports from across the galaxy. While Vextar had been on Earth, something incredible had been happening. His own fleet, orbiting above Earth, had been talking to humans through radio communications. Human musicians had been playing concerts for the alien crews. Human teachers had been giving lessons about Earth culture. Human comedians had been telling jokes that made alien soldiers laugh. Your crews have been learning too, Martinez said. They have been asking questions about human society, human values, and human ways of solving problems. Vextar felt a cold fear in his chest. What kind of questions? They want to know why humans work together instead of competing all the time. They want to know why human leaders are chosen by the people instead of taking power by force. They want to know why humans spend money on art and music instead of just weapons and industry. Martinez showed him communication logs. Vextar's own officers had been asking humans about concepts like democracy, freedom of speech, and individual rights. Ideas that were forbidden in the hegemony. General, Martinez said gently, your people are not asking these questions to spy on us. They are asking because they want to understand why humans seem happier than most species in the galaxy. Vextar realized the terrible truth. The humans had not just won over his soldiers on the ground. They had been slowly winning over his entire fleet. Not through weapons or threats, but through ideas. Ideas about freedom, cooperation, and treating people with dignity. What do you want from us? Vextar asked quietly. Martinez smiled that same calm smile. We want the same thing we have always wanted, General. We want to be friends. We want to share what we know and learn from what you know. We want to work together to solve problems and make life better for everyone. And if the hegemony refuses, then we will be sad, but we will respect your choice. We will not force our ideas on anyone, but we will keep our doors open for anyone who wants to visit and learn. As Vextar prepared to return to his ship that night, he realized that the humans had done something impossible. They had shown his entire military force a different way to live. And now he had to decide what to do with that knowledge. The humans had not conquered his soldiers. They had liberated them. General Vextar stood in his shuttle, ready to return to his ship. Through the window, he could see his soldiers saying goodbye to their human friends. There were hugs, promises to stay in touch, and even some tears. Commander Corvash was giving his human T-shirt to little Tommy, the boy who wanted to be a space pilot. In return, Tommy gave Corvash a small wooden toy airplane he had made himself. Secretary Martinez walked up to the shuttle. General, before you go, There's something else you should see. Vextar was tired and confused. 3 days on Earth had changed how he thought about everything. What now? Martinez handed him a communication device. Your ship has been trying to contact you. Commander Threx sounds worried. Vextar took the device and called his ship. Threx's purple face appeared on the screen, and he looked very nervous. General, we have a big problem, Threx said quickly. The crew is acting strange. They keep asking questions about Earth. They want to know if they can visit the planet. Some are even asking if they can request transfers to stay here permanently. Vextar felt his stomach drop. How many? Nearly half the fleet, sir. And it is getting worse. The humans have been broadcasting something called music to our ships. Our soldiers love it. They have been learning human songs and asking about human art. Yesterday, Lieutenant Kex from the 3rd Battleship asked me if the hegemony has any policies about creative expression. This was a disaster. Creative expression was not encouraged. In the hegemony, soldiers were supposed to focus on duty, not art or music. Sir, Threx continued, I also intercepted some private communications between our crew and the humans. Our people are asking about human government, human rights, and human freedoms. They want to know why humans get to choose their own leaders. Vextar closed his eyes. This was exactly what he had feared. The humans had not just influenced his ground troops. They had been slowly changing the minds of his entire fleet. Prepare for immediate departure, Vextar ordered. We are leaving this system now. Yes, sir. But General, what do I tell thee? Crew members who want to stay. Vextar looked at Martinez, who was listening quietly. Tell them. Tell them they have a choice. Threx's 3 eyes went wide. Sir, a choice? But regulations say. I know what regulations say, Vextar interrupted. Just tell them they can choose. The communication ended. Martinez stepped closer to the shuttle. General, that was a brave decision. It was a stupid decision, Vextar replied. I may have just destroyed my own fleet. Or you may have just set your people free. As the shuttle lifted off from Earth, Vextar looked down at the planet one last time. It looked so small and peaceful from space. It was hard to believe that this tiny world had just changed the course of galactic history. When Vextar returned to his flagship, he found chaos. Not the violent kind of chaos he was used to from battles, but something much stranger. His crew. Members were gathered in groups, talking excitedly about what they had learned from the humans. They were sharing music, showing each other human art, and discussing human ideas about freedom and democracy. Captain Zix approached him with a worried expression. General, what are your orders? Do we arrest the crew members who are talking about human ideas? Vextar thought about his 3 days on Earth. He thought about the human children learning to question authority, the human soldiers helping people instead of conquering them, and the human leaders who were chosen by their people instead of taking power by force. No, he said quietly. Let them talk. Over the next few hours, Vextar watched his military machine transform. Soldiers who had never been allowed to express opinions were suddenly sharing ideas. Engineers who had only built weapons were drawing designs for hospitals and schools. Medics who had only treated injured. Soldiers were talking about healing entire populations. But the biggest change came when Vextar received a message from the Hegemony High Command. They had heard reports about what happened at Earth. They were not happy. Supreme Commander Zarketh appeared on the main screen. He was the most powerful being in the galaxy, feared by trillions. His species looked like giant insects with metal parts grafted onto their bodies. General Vextar, Zarketh's voice was like grinding metal. You will destroy the planet Terra 3. Immediately. These humans are spreading dangerous ideas that threaten the stability of the hegemony. Vextar looked around his bridge. His crew was listening. These were beings who had followed orders without question their entire lives. They We're waiting to see what he would do. Supreme Commander, Vextar said slowly, the humans have done nothing wrong. They simply showed us a different way to live. Different ways are dangerous ways, Zarkoth replied. If other species learn that they can choose their own governments, choose their own jobs, choose their own beliefs, the hegemony will collapse. You will destroy them now. The bridge was completely silent. Vextar could feel his crew watching him. He thought about the human child who had called him Mr. General. He thought about his soldiers who had found happiness helping others. He thought about the human teachers who encouraged children to ask questions. No, Vextar said. The word hung in the air like a physical thing. In the entire history of the hegemony, no one had ever said no to the Supreme Commander. What did you say? Zarkoth's voice was deadly quiet. I said no. I will not destroy Earth. I will not kill people whose only crime was being kind to my soldiers. Zarkoth's insect face twisted with rage. Then you are no longer a general of the hegemony. You are a traitor. Other fleets will come. Earth will burn. Maybe, Vextar said. But they will have to go through me first. He cut the communication. The bridge remained silent for a long moment. Then, something amazing happened. Commander Threk stepped forward. General, Threk said, I request permission to stay with you. One by one, other officers stepped forward. Within minutes nearly, the entire crew had volunteered to stay. They were choosing to risk everything to protect the humans who had shown them kindness. Vextar contacted Earth and spoke to Secretary Martinez. Secretary, the hegemony will send other fleets to destroy your world. But my ships will stay to help defend you. Martinez smiled that same calm smile. Thank you, General. But I think you will find that many other species in the galaxy are tired of living under hegemony rule. Earth has been in contact with rebel groups across many star systems. They have been waiting for someone to show them that resistance is possible. Over the following weeks, Vextar learned the full truth. Earth had not been preparing for war against the hegemony. They had been preparing something much more powerful. They had been building a network of friendship and cooperation that spread across the galaxy. Species that had been conquered by the hegemony began to remember what freedom felt like. Planets that had been forced to give up their resources started to demand fair treatment. Soldiers across the galaxy began to ask why they were fighting to maintain a system that made everyone miserable except the rulers. The hegemony did send other fleets to Earth, but many of those fleets met the same fate as Vextar's. The humans welcomed them, showed them kindness, and asked them simple questions about what they really wanted from life. Within a year, the galactic hegemony collapsed. Not from a great war or a violent revolution, but from something much simpler. People across the galaxy had learned that they deserved to be treated with dignity and respect. They had learned that cooperation was stronger than domination. General Vextar never returned to military life. He became the first ambassador from the new Galactic Alliance to Earth. He spent his days helping former hegemony species learn about democracy, freedom, and human ideas like art, music, and literature. Sometimes, when he walked through the parks of Washington, D.C., he would see Commander Corvash playing with human children. Corvash had become a teacher, sharing his knowledge of the galaxy with young humans who dreamed of exploring the stars. And sometimes, when Vextar was asked how the humans had defeated the most powerful military force in galactic history, he would smile, the expression he had learned from watching Secretary Martinez. They didn't defeat us, he would say. They showed us something better than victory. They showed us what it means to be truly free. The galaxy had learned that the strongest weapon of all was not fear or force. It was the simple human belief that everyone deserved to be treated with kindness and respect, and that was a power that no empire could ever conquer.